I think we'll start with the basic ones. Obviously, many people know that you can attach to coasters and rides and such. I'm going to show how you can do that here. And you can move it all around. And if I place a piece, I can test it and watch as it does its thing. And I'm not going to engage that any longer, but you kind of get the idea. I only just recently found out about a really cool effect you can do. Let's just hold that in place. With the advanced move feature, I pressed X on my keyboard on PC. And if I go to this cog in the corner, we get to see the Symmetry menu, which is not normally accessible. Now, this is the menu I was talking about that I was missing, but I did not realize that it was on coasters and rides as well. So we're going to explore this a little bit, and you can see the potential. We're not going to make anything fancy here, but I'll show you a couple of examples later on of things that you can make with this tool, which will speed up your process like crazy. First things first, let's look at the symmetry types we have available to us. We've got mirrored, which applies to both sides of the car. Very convenient for when you're trying to design both sides of the car, unless you have a large piece that's going to cover over the whole train itself. These smaller pieces are going to make up the vast framework of what you're working on. You'll save double the time by not having to double things over to each side. You also have rotational symmetry, which is less important here, but essentially it allows you to, around the car, kind of have a little bit more freedom with where this goes. And it looks like the center point is considered the front of the car, so it's not actually that interesting from a coaster adjustment POV. But that's okay. We can already accomplish a lot with just mirroring. Let's go back to mirrored, and I want to put this back on because I'm going to explore this menu a little bit further. What twinning does is it copies the setting you have on the front throughout the entire train, and because these are ever so offset, well, most of the time you see a little bit of texture infighting here. But whenever you do stuff like this, say I place this here, if I were to come over here and delete it, the entire piece leaves. So you have to be really careful with these. Notably, I'm editing on a corkscrew coaster, and the first car is very different from the rest, which kind of means that you have to edit each car individually, or copy a texture per car behind it so that it matches what you want it to look like in the end. That's all I really have to say about coaster cars for the symmetry tool. Now I kind of want to talk about 360 power and what you can do here. I'm adding basically a stick to all of these, and you can see I have the settings from earlier. I have mirrored twinning all set up. Twinning attaches to all of the other seats, and it's more useful for rides for sure. There's also rotational symmetry here, which it looks like sometimes applies to the top somehow. It's very strange how this theoretically works. I don't have the words to explain what goes on with rotational symmetry when you're attaching to rides, and it feels much the same when you're doing something else that I'll show you in a little bit. But you have pretty much all of the same effects and triggers for this that you would for the coaster. So you don't have to build so many different sections of the ride. You only have to build one of them to high definition or to your liking, and then it copies that texture over to each other individual section of the ride. And this is probably best seen in a DLC ride, which is the Grand Carousel, because each of these pieces is different in a unique way. So we're going to grab this support beam, and if I want to attach the Grand Carousel, I can do that. And then say I wanted to twin, it's twinning all of these planes, specifically these planes. And it would be the same if I twinned with each of these hot air balloon cups, or for all of the horses, which is huge. That's a huge time save. You don't have to do all that work. Now I'm gonna come out and say I did so much manual work for stuff like this. which I know it looks really cool at the end of the day, but like I could have saved myself so much time. I attached each of these pieces without using the twinning tool. And same with all of these pieces up top. I couldn't get these walls big enough, so I ended up just making a hodgepodge up on top instead of using the tool that would have helped me out the most. In addition, I have these little sigils. The fact is, the blueprints are done, the hard work is over, and I can move on knowing that I have an easier way to go about it moving forward. Last thing I'll talk about is that this is not exclusive to just rides. You can place down a moving platform, and if we attach this, we have all of the same effects that we would have had otherwise, which is awesome. So this is, I believe, the rotational, which actually can matter if you add in a bunch, and it'll give you something of a correct angle effect for what you're trying to achieve. Dudu's Den was working on an igloo, and I mentioned offhand that this is a tool that could really help him, and he spent about like 5 or 6 minutes making a igloo, which, you know, is not bad. He knew what he was doing. But say I wanted to do the same thing. I attach to this piece, I raise it, purposefully I lower the whole schematic so that I don't see that, and say I wanted to do this. Now I can duplicate, move, kind of angle it so it's headed closer to the next piece, and I can do so repeatedly until I eventually get to my final destination, or something like it. Now this is a really bad example, but I think you understand what I'm getting at. If you take small pieces, you can make larger spherical-like objects just using them and the Symmetry tool. Now, mirrored admittedly is probably less impactful here than it would be otherwise. Here it's mirrored on these two sides. So if we rotated the piece here itself before placing this, say I wanted a 30-degree that way, and I wanted to mirror, now it would be from the alternative direction. So that is important to keep in mind if you're only using mirror for these pieces, although I think you'll find you're not going to be using that as much for the individual moving platform method. That all said, mirror is more important for rides and coasters, and rotational symmetry is better for these moving objects that you can attach to. These will work with any moving platforms, so let me just check real quick for all of them. Search moving, and you'll find 4 separate options. They all have different animations. I'd advise you to select none. So when you first place one down, it'll say loop by default. What you want it to do is go either on trigger only or deactivated. Now, the vertical platform will very easily get in the way, so I would suggest using the smaller one, which is, I believe, the rotational. Oh, radial. It's up in the corner. The radial moving platform is pretty good. Alternatively, you can use the rotational platform as well. As a bit of a proof of concept, Silverette has an excellent coaster design. It's called Rimba, and he has a video on his YouTube channel. I highly suggest you check it out, if for no other reason than the fact that Silverette is an amazing content creator. So we come through here, and it's a very beautifully designed coaster. He even added some pieces on it, and I bet you can probably guess what tools he used to make that happen. But I'm ignoring the biggest thing for this whole dome, and it's that he used framed hexagon glass panes. And oh, what do we have down here? It's the rotational platform. It's exactly what we were talking about. What would happen if I started this with an animation? Oh, that's terrible. This is the trick that all the content creators use to make their buildings look quite symmetrical overall. It's not attached to the coaster, it's attached to a moving platform. And using that knowledge, I'm sure you can make many, many cool things with it. That's it for this showcase. If you did enjoy, please leave a like. Ask me any questions if you have any. I'd be more than happy to answer them. And I just want you to have a lovely day.